Hello everyone, welcome back to part 3, Roughness of the Cobblestone path. We're going to get right into it. This one should be fairly short. Nothing special going on here with the roughness on this one. Alright, so we finished the base color in the last one. So now roughness. We're going to start with a... Where do I start? I start about here. Going to start with a uniform color as usual, just to set up our base for our cobblestone. And I have a new idea or something I want to try for the next tutorial that I think should make things a lot shorter. And we'll try that for the next tutorial, which I'm almost done working on. Okay, so we just start adding some noise here to our cobblestone. We start with a moisture noise. Then we use a histogram scan into a blur. And then our vector warp as usual. And then our levels here. And then that goes into the opacity of the copy. And then we have a uniform color, so it's 16 by 16. And we're using 0.425. Actually, let me plug this in so we can start seeing changes. So remember, we're not worried about what's hitting the ground, because that's going to go, it's on its own layer. So we go from this to this. And I just wanted to create some nice contrast here on the bricks, so it's not all the same color. Alright, that's the start. And then we're just going to move on down to this guy where we added the this in-between stuff. And then here, we're just going to plug in the last input or output from that guy into this levels. And now for here, we're trying to grab that edge stuff to try and make it a little rougher, just to have some contrast on the edging of the cobblestone. So like I said, we plug in from that last output there, and this normal, just a default normal, just kind of here to hold the connection. We have another uniform color set to 0.7 into a copy. And let's just see what that does. So you can see it. You can see here that it's also catching some of the surface imperfections from the cobblestone. So what I wanted to do, like I said, is get like these edges here to be a little rougher because they're closer to the dirt. So you would assume that like it's accumulating on the lower edges and thus making it look a little bit rougher. All right, next we have this here. Let's just plug it in. And then here we need to pull from whatever is going into this guy. So we're just going to continue the road and plug that in there. And let's just bring it back a little bit to save space. And keep it nice and neat. Okay. Then what do we do here? Let's see. Just another layer of roughness on top. like I said, usually for many cases you want to have some really nice contrast in your roughness. Uh, all outputs are important, but roughness, depending on the material, can really like make or break because it's gonna um, in materials, the roughness is what really kind of highlights parts of your material, and if everything is just kind of blends into one shade of grayscale or like one overall value of roughness, it can look very flat and unrealistic. And I think having really high contrast in your roughness is really makes it pop, especially in renders and in game environments and stuff. If it's just flat, then everything just kind of I don't know, it's hard to explain. It just won't look good, especially with metal. Metal is really really roughness dependent and lighting dependent. If everything just looks flat, it doesn't even look like metal, and it just looks really bad. This guy should actually be over here. Should be past these two red, or this big red box. And then we're gonna pull from this top one here, from the mask. That's gonna go in there. Actually, wait, I don't think I gave you guys these settings. So you can see the setting for that. That's just an invert grayscale into a copy, and then this is 0.75. Sorry about that. Got caught up yapping. And while I was yapping, I didn't realize that actually we're not pulling from this guy, we're pulling from this guy here. Actually, that's not right either. uh, left, hold Alt and click to disconnect without breaking anything. We're actually pulling from cracks from this guy. This connection start blending together. I'm just gonna go up here, do that. That's what should be going. Yeah. So for this ambient occlusion, you're connecting right after the cracks. So right after this guy, we should have used that a couple times. So just make sure that you're using that. There we go. So we're using this ambient occlusion here. We're inverting it, and we're trying to catch more of that. We're trying to create more of a fading effect between the dirt and the brick. So it's a smooth transition. And ambient occlusion is really good at capturing great gradients based on your height, of course. And then we have a 0.75 uniform color here. All right, I'm going to pay more attention this time. Now, for this opacity on this blend, it's going to be from this guy. I'm sure about it this time. So we'll create a connector, and that's going to go into opacity. And then this blends at the copy. This uniform color is 0.7. And then we have another grayscale switch, or switch grayscale. And we're only using one boolean this whole time, so just spawn one in, go here, and then make sure you're using the existing one because we want them all to be shared. Now here we're adding our base for our dirt, for our ground. So you can see it go from this to this. Okay, we're about halfway there. I'm kind of excited to try the new tutorial style for the next one. I think it should be good. Alright, let's move this guy back a little bit. We're going to be using this guy over here. So we're going to pull from this guy, and he is going to connect into the middle. And then we need to pull the mask, which is this guy here, the top guy in the red box. And then this is going to be set to multiply, and obviously we're trying to get rid of the bricks from that noise. And that's going to go into the opacity, into copy, and then we have our uniform color. 0.675. And you can see the changes here. We're just trying to create some contrast in the dirt layer. You can kind of see it right there. It's very subtle. Hopefully you can see that. Then we're going to do a similar thing here. Same thing. We're going to use the mask to go on top. This is set to multiply, and then we're going to be pulling from this guy here before the levels. You can see we're just adding another layer of contrast. And now we're on to the last part. So that's it for just the dirt and the cobblestone. Now we're going to be working on the grass and clovers and the background grass. So we're going to copy this, and we're actually going to move down to like about this area here. Just kind of go below that. Like that. And then we are going to plug in, should probably go a little further. We're going to plug in from this blur high quality grayscale before the levels. That's going to go into our levels. And we're trying to create like a roughing effect around all our bricks. To kind of help it all blend together. Okay, let's start with this guy and this guy. This is like the most complicated part, but it's not really that bad. Just not the usual stuff. Okay, let's start with this guy here who's got no inputs. Into the top, it's going to be the mask. So let's find the mask. So this guy. That's going to go into the top. And then for the middle, we're going to plug in our gradient, our patches of grass gradient. So let's see where that is. Should be right behind the clover. So this guy right here. That should be right behind your plant's original. Well, I called it that, whatever you called it. So I'm just going to create another road for this guy. We need to go about here. Then this guy's going to go on in the middle. And now, let's see what it did. It's kind of hard to tell. So I'm actually going to double click in the background here and then go to preview and then turn on my boolean so that it's only grass. and let's see here what it did. So then here you can see the difference after hooking up what we just did. Actually, I don't think I showed you guys the settings for this guy. Actually, just the default. This is set to max lighten. And then this uniform color is 0.775. And then I think I did show everything here. All right. All right. So you can see that before this is what it looked like after all the stuff that we did beforehand. And then, you know, once we do our roughness for our patches of grass, it looks a little bit more interesting. Looks more broken up. Like there's more going on. And let's just walk through what we did. So we took our grass patches from our height. I used the levels and I did the auto levels button. If you ever see like this arrow is like at the very edge, that means that I probably hit auto levels. So you can see my settings there. Let me just round these up for you guys. This is set to multiply because we're just masking out the mask. We have a moisture noise, just standard, nothing different about it. We increased the tiling, and then I offset it a little bit. I just kind of moved it around to get a better spot. Nothing special. And then here I subtracted. So I subtracted this noise from this to kind of give me some breakup. So if we hide this, you can see the difference. That's to subtract to 0.4. Then we just feed that into opacity, and then we use 0.5 on the uniform to give us this. Alright, let's bring back our bricks. So then obviously because we are multiplying with the gradient mask, then obviously this stuff in the center is going to be different value because of the gradient than the edges here. So the edges, you can see it's way stronger. So it's adapting because of our boolean. Next we have this. Let's just plug this in there, this in there. And then for this guy, we need to pull this mask with the gradient. And that is located somewhat in the middle. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's the third one we want. So I'm just going to pull from here because that's coming from this guy. That's the one we want. So I'm just going to pull here and then I'm going to plug that in there. Oops. And then that is it for that. And there's one more thing and we're done. Actually, two more. Okay. So we take this gradient and we scan it to get the full mask. Then we have I should have put this in a box. What did I call it? Ground only. And then just turn it red so that you know they all mean the same thing. And then, okay. So what's happening here is, like I said, we're scanning here, getting the full mask. Then we're using this guy and we're splitting it. And the one that's not going into the scan is going into the false, and then the scan version is going into the true in the switch grayscale. Don't forget to swap this to be the ground only boolean or whatever you ended up calling it. That goes into the opacity, copy and set to 1, and then we have 0.45 uniform color. And then this is setting our roughness for our clovers. I need a little bit more room here. So let's graph this, like that. Boom, boom. Then we're going to connect this guy, and that's going to come from the same thing that we've been plugging over here. So we're just going to grab here, plug that in there. And then we're actually going to reuse this this moisture noise transform 2D. We're going to plug that in here just to reuse it. And I think we just rotate it 90 degrees. And that subtracts. And now I just add a simple noise using that moisture noise. I just add it on top of the clovers so that it's not completely flat, like the same uniform roughness all throughout. Kind of want to break it up a bit. So to do that, we plug these guys in, and then here we just subtract. So now you see that we go from this, where they're all kind of looking the same, like just a smooth gradient. I subtract this noise from it just to kind of give it some differences. It's very subtle in here, but let me go back to ground only. You can see it more here in this version. So if we look at it from an angle, so you can see here they're all kind of the same. And down here they're all varying roughness values. So that's 0.73 is just copy in one, and then for the last step, we are going to use this normal here. We're going to extend that, and then use that in here into a curvature smooth. And then I use a histogram scan to kind of catch the edges. Actually, wait a second. Yeah, that doesn't look right. What is this? Oh, it's because we're doing ground only. Yeah. Let's go back to this one. Bring our bricks back, because then it makes more sense. So now we're catching some of the high points, like our edges. We're using a histogram scan. And then we have a uniform color, 0.45. And then we just go into a copy. And then we just want to get some, like, if you look here on the hard edges of our brick. Actually, this is not plugged in. Let's say nothing's changing. So you can see we're getting some more, like, I want to make that a little glossier or less rough on the edges, just to kind of make it pop a little bit. Like so. The roughness on this guy, I could have spent way more time, but I don't think the focus so much on this guy is the roughness. I think it's well, the roughness is focused on the brick, not so much everything else. But I think considering that we can turn it off and on, and we have two roughness, I guess, basically, that work well with the blending into the road and being stronger on the edges. I think that's more of what it's about than just roughness. Okay. Yeah, so that's it for roughness for this one. Like I said, I do have another one, another tutorial. It's gonna be more of a realistic material, just a simple tiles one. I do have a different method, like I've said, that I want to try, and it should be a lot faster and hopefully smoother. And I'll give it a try with the next tutorial. It's a very simple one, but I think it's coming out really sweet. So hope to see you guys on that one, and have a good one.